Before I want to get into today's topic, I do want to mention that e-bikes come in all shapes and sizes. This is the Surron Light Bee X. It's more of a dirt bike styled electric bike. There are typical standard bicycles that you can adapt and put electric motors on, like my friend Walker has done with this bike here. There are also all different types of other electric bicycles that you can buy in that form from factory. Also, I have to throw in an additional picture here. Walker also has a LiveWire Del Mar, which is essentially an electric version of a naked bike, or not quite a sports bike, although it has a lot of sporty characteristics and it is very quick. So, like I said, e-bikes can come in all kinds of different sizes and shapes and forms. A lot of these bikes serve different purposes, and their construction reflects that. Today in particular, we're mostly going to be focusing on bikes like the Surron, Teleria, E-Ride, and even things like the Stark Varg. Now, I do want to clarify, my personal expertise and interest is mainly in combustion bikes. My main bike that I ride at home is my Yamaha R6. But I have had an opportunity to ride this Surron this week. I wanted to share some of my thoughts on that. So obviously this is going to be just all about my personal opinions on electric bikes in general, if they have a place and what that place might be in the motorcycle market. So let's take this thing out for a ride. To get it to turn on, you flip up the kickstand and you flip the key. But before you do that, you gotta flip this up and turn on this. This is a little breaker for the battery. The battery is, last I knew, it was at 63%. Let's find out. Let's see. Maybe I have to turn it on for that. Yeah, 64%. Alright, so one of the first things that's really interesting about this bike is that it kind of feels like riding a bicycle more than riding a motorcycle. Most of that is due to its weight. I think this bike in particular weighs somewhere around like 140 pounds or something. So really quite nimble. Even on eco mode, it does all right. It's not, particularly in eco mode, it's not incredibly quick. At least compared to what I'm used to. But if we throw it into sport, it's quick enough. I wouldn't take this on any highways or anything like that. But these e-bikes, they play an interesting role in the market, and even different local municipalities sometimes have a hard time figuring out if these should be treated like bicycles or if these should be treated like motorcycles, and when they might be more like one or more like the other. So the nice thing about this bike is the torque from the electric motor is nice enough that, especially at slow speeds, it feels like you can definitely kind of sneak around and get through traffic a little bit fairly easily. If you're curious, I think you can get like an hour, maybe an hour and a half of riding on this bike before you have to charge it. And charging it takes about 3 hours if it's totally empty, the battery that is. And I think it charges a little quicker, up to like 80%, and then a little slower after that. A lot of batteries do operate that way to conserve the life of the battery a little longer. But as I was saying, sometimes different municipalities have a hard time figuring out if these are bikes or motorcycles. There are sometimes weird legal gray areas between whether this is legal to ride on the road. If you do, should you be off on the side of the road like a bicycle? What sort of speed limits do you have to follow? Can you ride on the sidewalk? These are all questions that we're still figuring out a little bit. Different places have different answers to those questions also. So if you are interested in buying an e-bike like this, make sure you know the laws in your area. It's kind of obvious, but I was surprised to learn how niche sometimes, or I don't know. It's weird to me how different the laws can be in different areas. So the Surron in particular, you could ride it in town if your local municipalities permit that, or you can definitely take it on the trails. Anyway, I enjoy watching videos from people like John Hicks, who I mentioned before. John Hicks often claims that these electric bikes are pretty much the best way to get around urban environments. I don't live in an urban environment at home, not anything, real urban. I live in a small town, but I can definitely see how that makes a ton of sense. Just cruising around here, like I said, the power is convenient, and it rides real smooth. It's just a ton of fun. Let's turn around here. Good little U-turn bike. It is also interesting to compare this to like my 1967 Yamaha YR1 that I ride around frequently. It's an old two-stroke. The power delivery, I would say, I don't know, real low in the RPM. Well, what would be RPM on that bike and what is just, the speed on this bike. I'm going to go back over that way in a minute, but I'm going to go over here first. At slow speeds, this bike actually kind of feels like it has similar power to the YR1, at least similar torque, at what, like I said, will be low RPMs on the YR1. It is a ton of fun. This bike, however, it's extremely smooth with how the power is delivered. You'll also notice this lever on the left here is not a clutch like it would be on that bike or really just about any motorcycle. Instead, that's the rear brake. Most motorcycles will have the rear brake up at your right foot, and that is not the case on this bike. It is interesting to me how much hate there is for electric bikes like this. Personally, I think they certainly have a place. Like I said, we're still trying to figure out what exactly that place looks like. But I think these bikes are an absolute blast. And that's coming from a guy who likes old two-strokes and who likes cruising around on a Yamaha R6. I absolutely love the sound of the engine that my R6 makes. But we can also appreciate the advanced technology. Well, not really advanced technology, but we can also appreciate, the electric technology used in these bikes. It is nice how quiet these bikes are. It's interesting, we're in a little bit more of a posh neighborhood at the moment, and I'm not getting glares, but anyway, part of that's a Wisconsin thing too. I definitely, I don't know, I appreciate the culture out here. But yeah, like I was saying, I really appreciate Walker for allowing me to ride this bike around and get a feel for it. I do think I would definitely be interested in owning an e-bike like this someday, just to rip around on, hit the trails a little bit. And honestly, it's like a bicycle, but a little more relaxed. Not as much exercise, but it's the American dream, huh? But anyway, like I was saying, I know a lot of people have a lot of hate for this bike. Well, not this one in particular, but for electric bikes in general. I really don't think people can have a full opinion on these bikes until they've tried them out. I know that might be a little impractical for everyone to have to try out a bike to have a valid opinion. I'm not saying your opinion's not valid, but I'm saying you might change your mind if you try it. Let me do a little weird U-turn here. Anyway, I would include myself in the camp of people who are saying that electric bikes really are a little odd. But it's an absolute blast riding these bikes around. Pretty, you know, capable on the trails as well, in my opinion at least. So like I was saying, this thing's an absolute blast, but Walker's LiveWire is even more so. So the LiveWire is a LiveWire Del Mar S2, I believe, or S2 Del Mar is what I should call it. The torque on these bikes is pretty crazy. It doesn't exactly have gears like you'd be used to, so you just twist the throttle and eventually you hit max speed. The LiveWire in acceleration is actually 0 to 60 is pretty much equivalent to my R6. It's 3 seconds 0 to 60, which is very commendable. Anyway, and the LiveWire's top speed is about 110, I believe. So a lower top speed than my R6 if we're just comparing those two. But like I said, that acceleration is pretty ridiculous. And it's an extremely comfortable bike as well. You just plug it in and it charges right up, and then you ride it around. So I had an absolute blast riding that LiveWire. It surprises me that so many people are like just totally against electric bikes in general. If you are one of those people, why don't you let me know in the comments below why. Do you feel that they just don't have as much soul? Do you feel like electric bikes are just impractical because the range is limited and then you have to plug it in and wait for hours? What do you think is the biggest downside of an electric bike? If you don't like them, you don't have to buy them, but I just find it interesting how much like actual hate there is for them. This is a little doggy for Julia. I think it might be dry enough real quick to hit the trails for like 2 seconds here. So, like I was saying, these things are fun to take on the trails as well. But I think they really can serve a dual purpose of running around decently in town, and then also being a lot of fun on the trails. Oh, what is that? Little baby rabbit? Wow. Yeah, it's real wet in here. My knees are getting damp just hitting the little grass or whatever plants. Yeah, everything is a little slippery, so I might turn around here just to avoid getting Walker's Surron too dirty. So anyway, let me know, have you tried riding a Surron or any other electric dirt bikes like this? If you did, what was your experience like? Did you enjoy it? Did you hate it? Would you buy one of these? Why or why not? I'm curious to hear your thoughts. I know a lot of people have pretty strong opinions on electric bikes one way or the other. I'm a little bit of an outsider, honestly. But I've had an absolute blast the times that I've ridden this and the times that I've ridden Walker's LiveWire as well. I think I'm getting mud on my back. I have to go clean myself up. I feel the mud hitting my back. Golly.